the spiritual master. The beginning and the introduction there, the Bhagavad Gita. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Who's ready to read the English? Sarah, Hare Krishna.
I'm so sorry. Hare Krishna. Sorry,
Hare Krishna. That's okay. That's okay. We're happy to see you at any time.
Thank you.
I was born. Yes.
I was born in darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Thank you, thank you. So there's just a quick little thing on Guru. I've mentioned it before. Some of you may have already heard, but I'll just mention it again. This principle of Guru, because we're going to be hitting that in another couple of verses about talking about the principle of spiritual master. Text chapter 4, text 34. So we're on 32 today. The 34 is a major verse about spiritual master. So just to mention something about that, since we're talking about this in this introductory verse, that so Guru means spiritual master, but there's three kinds of spiritual masters. Who can tell something about that? The three different kinds, just one, even one. There's three different kinds.
Abhay, sorry, what page are we on?
We're gonna look at today text 32 of the 4th chapter. But before we do that, we're just going to talk about this principle of Guru, because it comes up a lot. So it's very important. Like we've been spending a lot of time talking about sacrifice, and it might seem a bit slow going, but it's very essential. That's why I've been just drilling it again and again and again, because it's a very fundamental aspect of Vedic philosophy is understanding what is sacrifice, why, what, why, where, how, when, all this kind of thing. We've got to try to go deeply into it. It's very important to understand. So also another very important part of the philosophy is Guru. So 3 different kinds of gurus.
I only know 2, the Shiksha and Diksha Guru. I don't know the
Okay, so there's a bit of Sanskrit there, Shiksha and Diksha. So Diksha Guru, you only have one of them in your life, or at least at a time, only one. And that's the one that Diksha means initiating. So that's in English, initiating Guru. So they're the ones that that's the Guru that you make some vows to. You make some vows to, like in our case, in the Hare Krishna movement, we make vows to chant 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra every day. And we make vows, that's a do, that's a positive rule. And then there's 4 negatives, 4 things you don't do. No meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling. At the time those vows are made by the disciple, then the Guru gives the disciple a spiritual name. Why spiritual name? What's the need of giving another name or changing the name? Why do that?
Is it because it's like a new birth?
Yeah, very good, very good. In Sanskrit, it's called Dvija. Dvija. Dvi means, anyway, Josh,
second.
You know what's Dvi?
It's second, isn't it?
Yeah,
Dvi,
second. In Sanskrit, it's if you look at the numbers, Eka. Eka means 1. Dwal means 2. Then what is it? It's tree, isn't it? Tree.
Teen.
Chatur. Punch means 5, like the Pandavas, right? Pandavas, 5 brothers. So like that. That's the number. So dwi means two, and ja means birth. So it means like second birth. Your first birth is, that's compulsory. Everyone's had that one. We were born to our mother and father. That's the first birth is from our mother and father. And then the second birth is from the spiritual master. Spiritual master is said to be the father. And who's the mother? Because you can't have a father without a mother, right? So if the spiritual master is your father, is your second father, then who's the second mother? I'll give you a clue. Starts with V.
Vishnu?
No, not Vishnu. No. The Vedas. The Vedas is regarded as our mother.
Of course.
The Vedas is regarded as our mother. Isn't it? This knowledge of the Vedas nourishes us. It nourishes us and guides us and protects us, just like a mother, right? So very nourishing and protective, and everything we can get from the Vedas. So the second birth, then our second father is the Guru, and the second mother is the Vedas. And to help us to get out of our false ego, which is a bodily identification, into our real ego, the spiritual identification as a servant, as an eternal servant of the Supreme, then we, as much as possible, we want to cut off our illusory connections with this first birth, where we have a particular, the body has a label, right? Aaron or Smith or Joe or Fred or Ann or whatever like that. So that's the name of the body. But remember, what's the first thing the Guru teaches us?
We're not the body.
We're not the body. We're a spirit soul. So to help us to enforce that our real identification is the soul and not the body, then the name is changed at that time of initiation, and you'll be called, if you're in a man's body, you'll be called such and such Das, which Das means servant. Or if you're in a female body, you'll become called such and such Dasi, so which also means servant. So, like Krishna Das or Ram Das or Hanuman Das or Radha Dasi or Yashoda Dasi or Rukmini Dasi or something like that. Some name related to God or a godly quality. Like my name, Abai is not a name of God, but it's a good quality. So we're aspiring for that quality of being without fear. So like that, it might be some good quality or some name connected with God, like that, and that just helps us to shift our identification to the soul and to service and to eternal life, spiritual life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. So that's the spiritual master, is like that's the initiating spiritual master. And that happens at a time when we get very serious about our spiritual practice, when we want to accept the spiritual master. The question is, well, why do I need to go to that stage? Why can't I just be like I am and just chant Hare Krishna and things like that? And of course you can. It's all completely free choice. So why to go to that stage where you formally accept the spiritual master? The idea is that the spiritual master, having that more closer relationship with the spiritual master, can help us become more serious. Help us become more serious in that relationship and that service to the Supreme. Because before you take that step of initiation, make those vows, you can do it. You can chant if you want, and if you don't feel like it, you don't chant. And if you want to be a vegetarian or eat meat, if you feel like being a vegetarian, you can. If you feel like eating meat, you can. If you feel like you don't want to drink alcohol, you do that. And if you don't feel like doing it, then if you feel like doing it, you will. So, you can sort of be a bit more flexible about how much commitment you're going to have. But once you take that point of an initiation from a spiritual master, then you're committed. There's more commitment there, and that means that hopefully the person's going to be take it more seriously and become more steady like that. It's just like having a relationship with the opposite sex, right? You can hang out with the boys, hang out with the girls, and the girls hang out with the boys, and they can stay together if they want. If they don't want to stay together, they won't. But when you get married, why get married? Because that makes the relationship more stronger. There's more commitment there. That you're committing yourself to staying with the other person, and to protecting them or serving them or whatever like that. There's more commitment there. So therefore, marriage is there. When you take that step, I'm committed to you like that. So the same with initiation. You can just chant without being initiated. It's no problem, and you can chant after you're initiated. But the idea is hopefully the person will be more serious. But it's not automatic. It's not automatic. Don't think it's like some magic thing. You just go through some 2-hour ceremony and you get a spiritual name, and suddenly you're propelled in the air, and you become really pure and everything. That potential is there, but it's not automatic. You still have to put the work in. You have to try. It's just helping us to get it into our thick head, into our mind, that this is very serious. I've made promises in front of my guru. And this would often be done in a temple too. So it'd be like in front of God, in front of the deities in the temple. You're making promises in front of God, in front of the guru, in front of all your friends, in front of all the devotees. You've made vows in front of them, in front of the sacrificial fire, in front of the yajna, because there's often a fire sacrifice there as well, which is also a representation of God in the form of fire. So you've made your promises, in front of so many, and that's serious, like that. So that's hopefully going to impress in the mind that I have to stick to this. I can't just be whimsical anymore, because that's a tendency. Because on the mental platform, you see, on the mental platform is always changing, isn't it? Yes, no, I like it, I don't like it, I feel like it, I don't feel like it, I want this, I don't want this. Like that. That's the mind. That's the mind's chatter, is always going up and down, back and forth. But to help to overpower that, then this kind of serious commitment can help us. So that's one kind of guru, the initiating guru, Diksha Guru. Another one is Shiksha Guru. The Shiksha Guru means the instructing spiritual master. So how many of those can you have? A spiritual master that's giving good advice, good instructions. How many of those can you have?
I'd think many.
Yeah, many, unlimited. That's unlimited. Basically, whoever gives you good advice to help you advance on a spiritual path, they're your guru.
Abhay, sorry. Can you be more? Can you be a little bit clearer with how you pronounced it?
Oh, Shiksha is S. S for Sam, I for ice cream, K for kite, S for Sam, A for apple. So that's Shiksha Guru. And Diksha, so that's Diksa, Diksha, and then Shiksha. So the only difference is one starts with D and the other one starts with S. So Shiksha Guru means instructing. So that can be many even at the same time. Or one day you learn from this person, another day you learn from this person. Even you can learn from objects that are not even people. Even you can learn something, learn some valuable lesson from even an animal. Or a plant, or there's one story in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 11th canto where one person became very advanced in spiritual life, and one king met him and could realize this guy's like mega advanced, and was curious, how did you become so advanced? And he said, I had 20 gurus just from nature. He had 20 gurus, Shiksha Gurus, just from nature. Like, for example, he learnt tolerance from trees. From trees he learnt tolerance. How do you think you can learn tolerance from a tree?
Well, people are doing all sort of things to the trees, everything, and then the trees are not complaining. They are just still there doing their work.
The ultimate thing we do against the tree is we cut it down. After you've taken everything from the tree, you've taken all its flowers, its fruits, and everything like that, and then you have the audacity to cut it down, so, and it doesn't complain. So this person, he learned the quality of tolerance, which is a very essential quality to progress in spiritual life, from watching trees. He learned from a family of pigeons that you shouldn't get attached to family life. There's no problem with family life, but the thing is recommended on the spiritual path is don't be attached. So how he learned that from the pigeons is that the mother and father pigeons was on a branch in a tree, and the baby pigeons were playing around on the ground in the forest. And one hunter came up, sneaking up in the forest, and he threw a net over the kids. So they were captured in the net. The mum and dad are watching, and they say, oh my God, our kids, they're caught by the hunter, and we have to do something for them. But they both knew if we go down to help the kids, we're going to get caught. But what did they do? The mother went down first. She knew this is very dangerous. And sure enough, what they thought happened. The hunter threw the net over the mum too. And the father's freaking out in the tree. Now my wife's also gone. And if I go down, I'm probably going to get caught too. But what did he do? He also went down, and he also get caught in the net. And they all died. So from that experience, this man, he became very enlightened in that lesson too, not to get attached. We definitely want to have loving relationships and serve, very affectionately and everything like that. There's no problem. But in the material world, we have to understand all these relationships are temporary, and we don't want to get attached to anything, because everything is temporary here, and attachment can lead to suffering. So these are very, very good lessons. He learned one by one. And after learning all these lessons, he became so spiritually advanced like that. So you can have many gurus, and the guru might be physically older than you, or they might be physically younger than you. We've had examples in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes where the son was the Shiksha Guru of the father. How's that? Because the son became Krishna conscious first. And then from the son, the father learned Krishna consciousness. So the son was more advanced in Krishna consciousness. So the son became the guru of the father. And the father was humble enough to understand that actually my son is more superior to me, even though physically I'm older. But what's physical age got to do with anything? It doesn't. I mean, of course, we should respect, and we should respect some people that are, they're physically older than us. There should be respect for that. But even more worthy of respect is someone that has more spiritual knowledge and realization than us. And we shouldn't be too proud, thinking, "Oh, I'm older than them, I can't learn from them." No, why not? No, if they have something that can help you in your life, why not accept it? Just because it's coming from someone that's younger or from some unexpected place. Even Prabhupada, right? He's physically older and spiritually very advanced, but he learned something very important from one drunk American doctor. Would you believe it? From a drunk. He learned something from a drunk, and an atheistic drunk, and a guy was swearing also and very angry. It was actually, Prabhupada was very sick, and it was a public holiday in America, and the devotees were calling around for doctors to come and see Prabhupada, and no one was available except for this one guy who was just to go head off on a holiday. It was his holiday, and he was already starting to get in party mode, holiday mode, and was drinking. And he was so angry because it stuffed up his holiday to check out this guru. So he looked at Prabhupada, and then he went out to the next room where the disciples were waiting, and he was bad-mouthing Prabhupada, and he was swearing and all kind of things. And he said loudly, the trouble with this old man is that he doesn't exercise enough. He should go for a walk. And Prabhupada heard that from the next room. From that time, he started his famous morning walks. Who was his guru for morning walks? That was this American drunk atheistic doctor. So, you have to be open enough to see that Krishna, the Supreme, may be trying to teach you through multiple ways, through any way. Expect the unexpected. So don't just look for the standard person that has, that looks like a monk and all these kind of external features. Not necessarily. Sometimes the person that externally looks like a guru, they might not be a guru at all. They might be a cheater. They might lead you down the gurgler, down the plug hole, just because they have, long dreadlocks and wearing a robe and, a bare chest and live in the mountains or whatever. But they might completely ruin you like that. So the thing is just to be open-minded and always be eager to advance spiritually. So that's the instructing guru. There can be many of those. And then another one is the guru, that the first person that sets you on the spiritual path. So there's only one of those too. The first person that sets you on the spiritual path. And there was one person that did that for me in 1993, that I met him when I was working on a woofing farm, and he introduced me to spiritual life. He explained very logically why it's wrong to kill animals, and explained very logically that we're not the body, that we're a spirit soul. And that awakened me to spiritual life from being a typical Kiwi agnostic, debauchee, all bad qualities, to awaken me to spiritual life. And I'm forever grateful to that person that set me on the right path. So, and I haven't had a lot of time with him in recent years, but I'm always grateful that he set me on the path, and every now and again we communicate and stuff like that. But he's also a kind of guru, that person that starts you out, the very first person. That may be the first person, how you got started out, you received a book like the Bhagavad Gita, and that initiated the whole process. Or you saw people chanting on the street, or you got some prasadam like that. There's different. Maybe we can just quickly hear from some of you what started you out. What was the situation or the person that started you out in spiritual life? Bob's keen. Yeah, start with Bob.
No, what I was going to say was you didn't give us what you'd call that guru.
That's a real tongue twister name. That's a real tongue twister. I'm trying to remember myself. What's the Sanskrit for that? I'll have to give you that one later.
No problem.
It's got the word patha in it, P-A-T-H-A, which is interesting. The English word path and the Sanskrit for path is the same. So it's got the word path in the name, but it's a long word. I'll give that to you later, Bob.
No worries.
The one that's the guru that sets us on the path, the spiritual path. So Gulshan, what would you think was the very first
Like I was in Sydney. I was watching the Rath Yatra, the Kaliya Prabhu, and they used to come there in Liverpool, in front of my office. Around that time, I wasn't aware about that, but in my cafe in Charlestown, one of my regular customer, he came and told me that 2015 there's a place open there in Mayfield. It's called a Bhakti Tree. And I said, what are you saying? I didn't understand his accent. He's a Bhakti. I said, what is it? He said $10 Indian food on Friday. So all I heard, $10 Indian food. I said, okay, let's go.
Thank you. Narendra.
Yeah, I think that it's when I was talking to Gulshan, we used to talk, and since he was already into it, so then I started wondering, and I just he was talking about doing japas, and I was like, why, where, what's happening? And before that, I was also getting into meditation or something. I was reading somebody called Om Swami. That's also pushed me towards thinking about how basically we are living, what are we doing, and why we are doing meditation. It's basically that's when I learned that it's when you want to control your mind, because every activity you do in your life, where does it start? It starts in your mind. So, and meditation is the place where you can control it, you can direct it, so you can control your thoughts. So those kind of things. And then I talked to
and then
the credit goes to
lady
Gulshan.
there and give it your Bhagavad Gita when you're sitting in the cafe in
Oh
Maryland.
yes, and I was talking to Gulshan, and I was taking my kids for a haircut, and there comes a lady with her grandkid, and she was distributing these Bhagavad Gita as it is, and I was actually looking into those kind of things, and that instantly came, and then I got one Bhagavad Gita as it is from there, and then started. Although I have a Bhagavad Gita on my given by my parents, but I never read it. But I started reading this, and so that was, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, it's a place where you won't find Bhagavad Gita at this point of time. So it was just all, what do you call, causeless mercy of Krishna, I guess.
Yes.
So it's
So
a kind of.
Gulshan, you're a guru.
Yeah. He's my
the
guru.
idea that everyone become a guru. Everyone become a guru. Okay, Bhakti Mala.
Oh, my neighbor, I moved into a new place, and my neighbor gave me some books, and I don't think I actually read the books, but he encouraged me to go to Murwillumbah, to the farm. And I went to I just went to the farm, and I fell in love with the deities and Krishna straight away, and bought my beads there and started chanting straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the neighbor is the guru.
Yeah.
Sarah.
Oh, gosh.
Who first set you on the path? Hard to maybe trace it sometimes.
It's hard to know. Well, before I came to the Hare Krishna movement, I was going to an ashram, the City Yoga ashram, and there was some readings, and there was references to the Bhagavad Gita, and I went to a shop and I bought it, a gemstone alternative shop, and they had a copy of the Bhagavad Gita. But I suppose it was really, and I had a copy of it, and then I had a smaller copy. But I was listening to Eckhart Tolle, and he was making references to consciousness, and I thought, I've heard that before. This reference to developing your consciousness, and I picked up the Bhagavad Gita, and then from reading, I that reading, I looked in the back and then I saw the farm, New Gokula, and picked up the phone and I spoke to Jayanti.
Okay.
And I said, I think I'll come.
Yeah.
So
But it
and
started
then
off with some people in City Yoga and the Eckhart. I haven't heard that name, but some people there. Okay, that's good. That's good. Hey, Josh, what set you out on the spiritual path? Who?
It was my parents.
Your parents, yes, very nice.
Yeah, they weren't part of any particular school, but my mum in particular, sort of has a direct sort of communication with spirits a lot, and Dad sort of learned it from her a fair bit, and Dad was very philosophical and along those lines. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Bob.
Mate, I studied stretching under a fellow called Kit Lachlan for about 10 years. And he came from a yoga background, extremely intelligent man. And I noticed that when he got into a discussion, or let's say not a heated argument, but some sort of argument, he would start to quote the Vedas, and his opponents would gobsmack. He seemed to always come out on top. So that kind of was my first spark, I think, of going down that track.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for sharing that. It's always find it very fascinating to understand how a person comes to spiritual life. It's quite an amazing point in the soul's journey when the soul awakens from material consciousness to spiritual consciousness. It's a very special moment. It's very significant in our sojourn in the material world, life after life, when we come to spiritual consciousness. Okay, so let's pick up the Bhagavad Gita if you don't already, and let's go to text 32 in the 4th chapter. So we can recite the Sanskrit. Fourth chapter, Transcendental Knowledge, text 32. Evam bahu vidhayagna vitata brahmano mukhe kama jan viditan sarvan evam gyatva vimokshase. Okay, let's do it one more time with a loud voice. This is why you have a voice. This is why the Supreme gave you a voice, to use it to glorify Him. Otherwise, if you don't use it to glorify Him, it said in the Vedas, it said a voice that doesn't glorify the Lord is like the voice of a ribbit. It's like a frog. It's like a frog. You know, the frog croaking, you know what result that has? What's the result of the frog croaking?
Mating
call or something, I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably thinking along those lines, but it has some negative effect that he wasn't after.
Lust?
Well, it attracts something else. It doesn't only attract the mate, it's attracting something else called a snake. So the snake becomes attracted by the sound of the frog croaking, and it's sneaking up, slowly sneaking up.
But the snake doesn't have an ear.
No, they can, they can, whether it's the vibration or the sound, I don't know. But anyway, that said, that's how the snake finds the frog, is from their croaking. And then the snake obviously comes up very quietly and then dies. So it says, for someone that just talking all nonsense things, they're just passing by their life talking all nonsense, and slowly they don't realize it, but their death is approaching them, and then of course inevitable death takes place. So it means time is all lost, wasted, and we're so absorbed in talking all things, and time is passing, we don't even notice, and then we lose our whole life. So, but the only way to escape that is if we use our tongue to vibrate the glories of the Supreme. Then instead of getting closer and closer to death, you're getting closer and closer to moksha, to mukti, to being liberated, to being freed from the cycle of birth and death. So please use your voices for the very best purpose, unless you want to.
What about the pronunciation? Do you have to be right?
Well, how you're going to become right is through practicing it. So unless practice makes perfect, right? So if you want it to be perfect, it's not going to happen straight away. I remember when I started chanting these mantras in '93, I was definitely no better than any of you, probably worse than some of you. But, you know, if you keep doing it, I mean, a lot of my initial years were living in a temple, so we'd be chanting these verses every day. And you just keep drumming it into your head, and eventually it starts to, you know, become easier slowly. You know, and everything in the beginning is hard. When's the first time you rode a bike? Was that easy? No. The first time you went into the kitchen to cook, was it easy? You know, the first day you went to school, was it easy? No. Well, the beginning is always tough, but after a year or two or whatever like that, then everything becomes easy. So you have to practice. Same with, right, Josh? Unless you practice yoga. I mean, if you look at Josh, he's like a human rubber band. You know, he's so flexible, and he can just, it makes it look easy. But was it easy the first day you did yoga, Josh? Can you remember?
No, it was awful. It was awful, and it took years. I've been doing it for 10 years, you know, and even like, you know, 3 or 4 years in, I was still pretty terrible at everything. You know, it's only. Yeah, it comes so slowly. Some days you just realize, oh, wow, I can do that now. That's cool. I remember, you know, struggling so many times trying to get that right, you know?
Yeah. But you just have to persevere. That's the thing that's so important. Like Josh persevered with yoga. You know, like we persevere with chanting these mantras and that. You just keep trying. And the beauty of bhakti is, what Krishna's really after from you is not perfect pronunciation of mantras. What is he after?
Your love.
He wants your love.
Bhava.
The bhava. He doesn't care if you're not a Sanskrit scholar, but he wants your love. But this is one way that you can express your love, because this is his language. He likes this language. This is the way he talks. So you want to love him, then, you know, you want to try to understand his language. It's natural. Isn't it? Like if you love someone, you find out what they like to eat and you cook that. You don't cook what you want to eat. You cook what the person you love wants to eat. You know, if you're attracted to a particular person, you look at the way they dress and you dress like that, isn't it? The way they have their hairstyle, you have your hairstyle. You know, like that. So that's natural. So the more we get attracted to Krishna, it's natural. But even just materially, from a material point of view, Sanskrit is the most perfect language. It's such an amazing language. Actually, the meaning of Sanskrit, Sanskrita, means perfectly done. It's so logical. I heard. What's that?
Yeah, it does too. Very nice. I never realized.
Yeah, it's broken down, I think, into Sam and Skrita. Krita. Krita means done, and Sam means perfectly or complete. So it's such a perfectly, completely done language. I heard that even computer language is based on Sanskrit. I don't know how exactly that works, but you know, all those zeros and ones or whatever like that, or whatever they do, apparently that's got some connection from Sanskrit.
Tell you what it is. It's like I did computer science. My degree at uni was computer science, right? And so it's not the zeros and ones. That's more of a mathematical thing. But it's more like the position of the words in the sentences and the way that the sentences are structured. It's very similar to some programming languages.
Oh, okay. So yeah, even
Subject.
programming language, they got some ideas from Sanskrit. So it's just such a perfect language, and just the sound of it is so sweet. Even though my voice is like a bit of a frog, but it's just so beautiful. Let's have a go. Alola Chandra Kala Sadvanamalya Vamsi Ratnanganam Tranaya Kali Kalavilasam Shamam Tribanga Lalita Niyata Prakasham Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam. That's so amazing. It just captivates the mind, because it's not just spoken monotonously. It's sung, like I said before. Bhagavad Gita, right? Gita means the song of God. So it's just enthralling. And if you understand the meaning of the words, then it's even more deeply it affects the consciousness. But even if you don't understand the meaning, it just sounds really good. But if you know the meaning, then it really goes right to the heart. Every word is loaded up with so much meaning. Okay, so let's get into this one. Okay, who wants to read the translation?
I can do it.
Yep. Text 32.
All these different types of sacrifice are approved by Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated.
Okay, what's the very first point in this verse? Break it down, this verse, and try to understand it point by point. What's something very important here? The first point.
Different types.
Yeah, so there's not just one type of sacrifice, but there's different types. Different types. And very important point, they have to be approved by the Vedas. You can't just go and make up your own kind of sacrifice, mate. That's not bona fide. You got to practice a sacrifice, one type of sacrifice out of the many that's recommended, approved by. It's got to be approved by the Vedas. It's got to be mentioned in the Vedas. You can't make up your own process that's not in the Vedas. Like what some people do, they follow someone that calls themselves an incarnation of God. Such and so Bhagavan. There's many of them. Bhagavan means God, right? So they'll have, this so-and-so Bhagavan and this so-and-so Bhagavan. But if that person is not mentioned in the Vedas, then a person should not accept them as an incarnation of God if it's not verified and in the Vedas. Otherwise, it's just fanciful concoction of the public, but it's not real. It's not real. It has to be mentioned in the Vedas. And the Vedas, why does it have to be mentioned in the Vedas? What is the Vedas? One verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam says, Veda Narayana Shakshat. The Vedas is directly the breathing of Narayana. It's the words of God. The Vedas is the words of the Supreme Being, of the Absolute Truth. So it's the words of the Supreme Being, the Absolute Truth, given to us it's always been there. The Vedas has no beginning. That's why it's called Sanatana Dharma. Another name of the path that we follow is called Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana means eternal, and Dharma means occupational service or characteristic. It has different meanings, Dharma, but it has no beginning. The words of the Supreme. Originally, it was passed on through word of mouth. It means a Supreme Being speaks to his disciple. Like in our line, our parampara that we come in, our sampradaya, the first person that Krishna spoke to is Lord Brahma, the first being in the universe. There's the first disciple. And then Lord Brahma spoke it to Narada Muni. And Narada Muni spoke it to Vyasadeva. And Vyasadeva, he wrote it down, and we have it in written form. Before Vyasadeva wrote it down, it was just an oral tradition. It was just an oral tradition. And that's called Shabda Brahma. Shabda Brahma. Shabda means sound, and Brahma means spiritual. So the spiritual sound would enter from God's mouth into your ear, into your heart, and then you would speak it. The sound would come out of your mouth and enter into someone else's ear and go into their heart, and then come out of their mouth and go into another person's ear. And that way it would get passed on, the spiritual sound. But it's based on spiritual sound. And where does that spiritual sound originally come from? Comes from the Supreme Being. It has to start from there. Otherwise, if it's not coming from the Supreme Being originally, it's probably just going to be mental speculation. Which, of course, if you have, like we have here, maybe, seven or so people here, our minds will be speculating 7 different ways. So you'll have 7 different versions, 7 different ideas, and there's probably not going to be, anything to agree upon there. We all speculate differently. But we want to get to the absolute truth. So if you want to get to the absolute truth, which in Sanskrit is called tattva, the tattva, the truth, that we want the facts, the truth, not just different beliefs, not just, my belief, your belief, maybe it's like this, could be like, the scientists talk about that, right? We have this theory, and then maybe it's like this, or it could be like this, but what's the point of that? It's not, there's no substance, there's no real truth there. It's just someone's mind, what they're projecting out like that, and people have faith in that, so forth. But we want to get to the facts. So even in terms of sacrifices, you want to follow a kind of sacrifice that's, and you can choose which one that suits you, and we're going to find out why there's different kinds of sacrifices, but it has to be verified by the Vedas, and it has to be a process given by the Vedas. And also the next thing, and they're all born of different types of work. So sacrifice isn't a kind of belief. It's not just in your head. You're actually doing something. What does it mean, different types of work? What can you work with?
You can work with
when you talk about your self, the Atma, what different aspects are to the Atma, to the self?
Okay. Well, you've got your soul, your mind, body.
Yes.
False ego.
Yeah. So you can work with your body, or you can work with your mind, or you can work with your soul. You can work with your intelligence. So therefore, there's different kinds of sacrifices that you're working with different aspects of yourself. Like you got like this Ashtanga yoga, that's sacrifice where you're working with your body predominantly. in the beginning at least. Later on, more things, but predominantly with the body. Whereas like jnana yoga, that kind of sacrifice with knowledge, you're working a lot with the buddhi, with the intelligence. Whether you're working with your intelligence. It's not that the person's not working. He is working, not so much with his body. He's not doing much work with his body, but he's doing a lot of work with his intelligence. But that's also work. Like that. So you can work with your soul. You can work with your intelligence, work with your mind, work with your body. So there's different. And then, of course, you know, we had one kind of sacrifice, you're giving away possessions, so many different things. So there's different kinds of work there. And then, of course, then the big question is, but why bother to do any of these kinds of sacrifice? Everyone asks, before you do any kind of work, what are you going to ask? Before you're going to get your backside off the chair and do some work, what's thoughts going on? Anyone ever think, what's in it for me? What do I get out of it? Isn't it? Is anyone going to be motivated to do anything in life unless there's some kind of inspiration, some kind of benefit? That's what inspires us, right? What inspires us to work? That you think you're going to get some benefit out of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, why do you go to university? Because you're thinking, oh, I'm going to get that certificate at the end of 4 years of hard work, 6 years of hard work. That's going to help me to get a job. That's going to help me make a lot of money. And with that money, I can use it to do all the things I want to do. You know, so you're only going to work if there's inspiration. It means there's some benefit, some result. So, you know, why do sacrifice? It's hard work. Because like it says in the last sentence, knowing them as such, you will become liberated. That's pretty inspiring, isn't it? Geez, I really want to do sacrifice now, because if I do sacrifice, if I know what the sacrifice is and do that work, then I'm free. Free from what? What do you want to get liberated from? Liberated means free. What do you want to get freed from?
Birth and death.
Yeah. That's good to be free from that, isn't it? Isn't that worthwhile doing some work and sacrifice? If you can get free from birth and death, and in between that's old age and disease, that's a bit of worthwhile to do that kind of work, isn't it?
You bet.
You bet. Otherwise, if you don't know that sacrifice is the process of getting your backside out of this rotten place, then there's no inspiration. Then no one wants to do it. I mean, you look how many people do sacrifice today. You could count it on, you know, your two hands. You know, how many people do sacrifice. It's a bit exaggerated, but there's not many. There's not many people. Why? Because they don't have this knowledge. They don't know this is what's going to make them live really happily ever after. You know, that's going to solve all their problems. Prabhupada said many times, Krishna consciousness can solve all of your problems. And he's not exaggerating that. It can solve all the problems. You name it, that the sacrifice, whether it's Krishna consciousness or through some other, you know, bona fide sacrifice mentioned in the Vedas, can solve all of your problems. Because if your soul is extracted out of this material world, out of this material body, then what problems do you have? You don't have any more problems. See, how's the way that modern society deals with it? Oh my God, I've got to solve the crime problem and the social problem, the financial problem. I've got to solve the environmental crises. I've got to solve the Chinese crisis and the American crisis and the you know, from everything. Now it's the COVID crisis. You know, I've got to solve this problem and that problem. It's never ending. There's a million problems, and everyone's mad after, you know, trying to counteract all these millions and millions of complicated problems, and our brains exploding, our hearts exploding from all the stress of trying to solve all these, counteract all these problems. But the Vedic process is very simple. You only need to do one thing. You do one kind of sacrifice. You choose one kind of sacrifice, do that work as recommended and authorized in the Vedas, and you're out of here, mate. This can be your last life if you play your cards right and if you do the work properly. Or maybe it's a few more, but still not long. You know, very shortly, you're going to be out of here real quick. Let's go to a very ecstatic verse. 12th chapter, text number 7, I think, around that. 12:7. Some of us, sometimes we might think, oh, you know, it's going to take me a long time to get liberated from this material world. But that's not what Krishna says. Yeah, it's text 6 and 7. So 12th chapter, which is called Devotional Service, text 6 and 7. Okay, let's practice our Sanskrit. Yetu savani kamani mai sanyasya matpara ananyainaiva yogena mam jayantu pasate te sammaham samudharta mrityu samsara sagarat bhavamina chirat partha maya veshada chedasam. Now, who's going to be the fortunate person to read this in English? Who wants to be fortunate?
But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Paratha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death.
Wow, swift deliverer. From what? Deliverer from what? The ocean of birth and death. Krishna's so kind. He can lift us up real quick. And the Sanskrit, the words there, na chirat. Chirat means long time. Chirat, long time. But you put na in front of it. Na means not. Not long time, means short time. And a very short time. You're out of here, mate. You're out of this world. And if out of this world, which is birth and death, then where are you going to go? You're going to go to the spiritual world, an eternal world. Shall we check out the spiritual world? Does anyone want to check out the spiritual world?
Yes, please.
Where does it talk about the spiritual world in the Bhagavad Gita? The 8th chapter, text number 8th chapter. Let's have a look. 8th chapter. Is it the 8th chapter? I'll do what I did before. Look up the in the back. Natad basyate suryo. So that's how it starts off. Natad basyate suryo. Natad. Okay. Oh, sorry, I was wrong. 15th chapter, text 6. 15th chapter, text 6. The spiritual world. Who wants to read that one? Who gets there first? 15th chapter, text 6.
Is that where it says that supreme abode?
Yeah.
Do you want me to read it?
Yes.
That supreme abode of mine is not illuminated by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world.
So that's just a little taste of the spiritual world. It's full of dazzling effulgence, self-illuminating. It doesn't need a sun there. It doesn't need a moon. Like the material world's a dark place. The only thing that stops it being dark 24/7 is the sun comes up some of the time and the moon comes up some of the time. But the spiritual world is self-illuminating. And once you go there, you never come back to this material world again. So that's just a tiny little taste of the spiritual world. It's an eternal place and full of dazzling effulgence and so many. This Bhagavad Gita just gives a little taste of the spiritual world, but the complete picture of the spiritual world is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's very detailed descriptions of the spiritual world there. And in another book given by Lord Brahma called the Brahma Samhita, which is one of the verses I sung before. So that gives a very elaborate, very detailed description of what the spiritual world's like and what's going on there in the spiritual world. It's a very wonderful place. So if we know this, that this process of sacrifice, if we work in sacrifice for the pleasure of the Supreme, by the pleasure of Krishna, can free us from all the miseries of the material world and take us to an eternally blissful place, the spiritual world, then why not? Of course, we'll be more inspired to act in sacrifice. And remember, sacrifice means?
Different sorts of sacrifice.
Yeah, different sorts of sacrifice. But the principle, what's the principle of sacrifice? That I'm doing the work for the pleasure of?
Krishna.
Yeah, for the pleasure of the Supreme, pleasure of Krishna. And otherwise, work that's not done in sacrifice means you're doing it for your pleasure. Or you might say, for my family or my nation, my people, humanity, or whatever, but something other than the Supreme. So that's all different extensions of selfishness. But otherwise, sacrifice means to give up all those different extensions of selfishness, and you're doing it for the pleasure of the Supreme. Okay, so now let's get into the purport. So now we know that there's different kinds of sacrifice, but they should be approved ones. You should follow an approved. That's approved where? Approved in the Vedas, and that you can utilize different aspects of your capacity, either your body, your mind, your intelligence, or your soul. So different kinds of work with different aspects of yourself. Because when you talk about your Atma, yourself, it could be the body means Atma, or your mind means Atma, the intelligence is the Atma, the soul is the Atma. So there's different levels of Atma. Of course, ultimately we're the soul, but in the material world, along with the soul, you've got the soul's inside the body, you've got a subtle body made of mind and intelligence and false ego, like that. So there's different, but we can in this conditioned state, we can work with whatever capacity we have and whatever we're attracted to working with. We can do that. If you're not very intellectually advanced, you can sacrifice more with your body, like that. And then what's the result, the benefit of doing sacrifice is we get free from suffering. Okay. So in the purport, who hasn't said anything much yet? Who wants to read the purport? Purport? It's only a short purport. Who wants to read it?
Do Different types of sacrifice, as discussed above, are mentioned in the Vedas to suit the different types of worker.
Okay, so let's just start there. Just comment on that. So why the different kinds of sacrifice? Because why not just one kind of sacrifice? It'd make it a lot easier if you just had one sacrifice, right? But why not? Because Krishna is recognizing we're all at different levels of our consciousness, of our realization, of our bhakti, our devotion. So, and we have different attachments. So Krishna is taking into account there's so many different levels that people are on. Like education, right? There's one education, but within one education, you've got Primer 1, Primer 2, Primer 3, Standard 1, Standard 2, Standard 3, secondary, primary, secondary, tertiary education, because the students are at different levels. It'd make it a lot easier, right, if you only taught one thing. But you can't do that because the students are all different. We have different capacities. So, it goes from really basic to really advanced. Even like yoga, right? You've got really basic yoga and then really advanced yoga. And then you've got in the middle as well. So, I mean, even like martial arts, right? You've got white belt, a whole heap of different belts right through to black belt. Even black belt, they have so many different levels of black belt like that. So it depends on the advancement of the student or, how much of a beginner they are, how much advanced. So that's why there's so many different kinds of sacrifices, because us, the workers, are different. We're different types of workers. And we want to work with someone wants to work with the body, someone wants to work with the mind, someone wants to work with the soul. Someone's more advanced, someone's just starting out. So there's all different levels. So that's Krishna's understanding the situation perfectly, and he's given the perfect solution to the problem that souls are all on different levels. So he's given different methods there for us to make progress. Unfortunately, modern education is pretty stupid. It's not very personalized education. Like all the students in the room, they're all taught exactly the same stuff. But if you were really clever, you would find out what the nature is. This is what they do in the Gurukul. Going back to Gurukul, the Guru sees each student. What's your nature? Are you more influenced by the mode of ignorance? Are you more like a Sudra kind of type? Then he'll educate you according to what the Sudra's into, arts and things like that. And if they're more mix of ignorance and a bit of passion mixed in, that Vaishya type, then there'll be a different education. And if you're a more passion, a Kshatriya type, they'll educate you according to that. And if you're more Brahminical, more in the mode of goodness, Sattvaguna, then the education will be more along that philosophical, intellectual, all that kind of stuff. And the Brahmanas, they might carry on the Gurukul till they're 25. Because, I mean, it's never ending. The amount of philosophy and knowledge in there is just, if someone's into philosophy, I mean, you could spend your whole life doing that. But someone that's like a Sudra type, you're not going to spend very long time in the school. There's only a few things you need to be taught, and then just get you out working, helping out in the field and growing crops and milking cows and, helping other people out. There's no need to spend a lot of time at school. Have you guys noticed that some people, they hate school and they feel they don't learn anything at school and they're wasting their time, and they just interrupt other people that really want to learn, and other people, they love school and they thrive on it. Have you noticed that?
Yep.
We all do, right? But the modern education system doesn't recognize that you've got different kinds of students. Some that are philosophical, some that are not, some that just need to be given hard work for their bodies, like that. But the Vedic culture does acknowledge that, does recognize that. So it plugs you in exactly according to what type of worker you are. There will be a different kind of sacrifice recommended. And you're going to like doing it. It's going to be according to what you're going to do, the sacrifice that you like to do and that you're good at doing. That's very important. Very important. What kind of result are you going to get from your work if you don't like it and you're not good at it? Or one or the other or both. If it's both, it's a real bummer. You don't like it and you're not good at it. Sometimes you might like something, but you're not good at it. And sometimes you might be good at something, but you don't like it. And sometimes both, and that's a real disaster for the person and for everyone else around them, because they're going to be really unhappy people. So, and we have a lot of that in today's society, that people are not doing the work that's fitting their conditioned nature, their psychophysical nature. But the Vedas plugs you in to work exactly according to your psychophysical nature, whether you're in ignorance or passion or goodness or a mixture of whatever like that. And that's a lot more logical, isn't it? And it's a lot more personal. Whereas modern day society just teaches us that it's like we're all the same. Even what it goes to, the extent it goes to now, is that even man and woman is the same. Treats them as the same. What do you think about that, ladies? Is that a good thing? Bad thing?
I think it's complicated. I think it's
Complicated?
complicated, people's roles and relationships. Made it, yeah. I wonder what Bhakti-mala thinks.
No comment today. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. If you just look at the physical body of a man and a woman, is it the same? Just look at it analytically from that point of view. Is it the same?
No, it's not.
Some customer comes to the Bhakti tree, I'm confused. Are they men or women?
But that's what I mean. It all gets all merged. Everyone's confused. They don't know who they are, not materially or spiritually. Forget about we don't know who we are spiritually, but even we don't know who we are materially. So this is a very confused situation. So Prabhupada gave the example. You say that man and woman are equal, it's the same, but then let's see a man give birth to a child. If a woman can give birth to a child, but a man can't, so that's not equal, is it? That's not the same. There's difference there. There is a difference. Generally, man is physically stronger. Generally, not always, but generally like that. So there are differences there. You can't say the same. But what is the same? Okay, materially, we're not the same. But what is the same? Is it that we're only different? Is there nothing in common? What's that?
Even though we're all individual souls, that we share that commonality of that we're
on the spiritual platform, that's where the equality is, not materially. You can't get equality materially. Equality is on the spiritual platform, that we're all eternal and we're all full of consciousness and full of bliss. That's our nature, and that we're all children of the same Father, of the Supreme Person, of Krishna. We're all the same family. Spiritually, we're all the same family. We're all brothers and sisters. So no one's higher or lower. No one's more higher or inferior to anyone else spiritually. We're all servants. Every single soul is a servant. There's only one master. There's only one master, and that's Krishna. Ekaleshvara Krishna Ara Sabha Bricha. There's only one Ishvara, and that's Krishna. Eka. There's only one Ishvara. Ishvara means controller. That's Krishna. Ara Sabha Bricha. That means all others are Bricha, means servant. So on that platform, we're all the same. We're all servants. I'm not the master. You're not the master. I'm not yours. I'm not your master and you're not my master, like that kind of thing. We're all servants and Krishna's our master. And we're all eternal, that's all the same. And we're all full of consciousness, that's the same. And we're all, nature is to be happy, blissful, that's the same. But materially, there are so many differences, so that has to be recognized. If you try to make it materially equal, then you end up with big problems. You send the woman out to the workforce to work alongside the men, and what generally happens? They get exploited. It's not very good. They get exploited. You know, and then you get unwanted children, and that's a big mess for the ladies and for the men, you know, and for the children, you know, so many problems. So Vedic culture avoids that. Generally, the men would go out working and the ladies would stay home and look after household activities and also raise the children, put all their affection and love into bringing up the children, and they would be in a protected environment in the home, no exploitation. Prabhupada even tells about his own mother. Even if Prabhupada's mother was going from her house to the next door neighbor, she would go in a palanquin. Do you know what a palanquin is?
No.
Palanquin is like a seat fully enclosed, like a little room with a seat in it, and it's got 2 bars sticking out the front, 2 bars sticking out the back. So there'll be someone carrying the front and someone carrying the back, and there'll be his mum would be in a fully enclosed, seated in there, just to go next door to the neighbors. It means no one would see her. Not otherwise, you get some lusty man gets attracted to the woman, and then woos her and said some sweet words, "I love you," and all this sort of stuff. And then she gets attracted by that, and then you know what happens, and then it's all over, you know, or just, you know, rape and so many things, and then it's all a big mess. But Vedic culture protects the woman. But as Kali Yuga came in, then these men want to exploit the woman. So yes, make everyone's equal. We can do the same things we can do, and then we see what happens. I mean, I've said it, you know, very simply, and just, I mean, it's a big subject, very complicated. Don't want to go into it too much, but that's the real equalities on the spiritual platform, and we see that the soul is same kind of soul as within the dog. We've talked about that verse before. Same soul as in the body of a dog, an elephant, the human, the tree. There's an eternal soul there. So that's real equal vision. Equal vision means to see that the same kind of soul is within every living thing, and God is also present there within the heart of every living thing. So that's the kind of equal vision we want to get. And if you have that vision, then you'll have equal respect. Equal respect. I respect the soul equally within the body of a man, as I respect the soul equally within the body of a woman, as I respect the soul equally within a black person or a white person or a, you know, young person or old person. And you're going to have that same level of respect. But then but according to the body that the soul's in, then they have to be engaged in a different kind of work. You don't want to necessarily put them all in the same work. That's where they've gone wrong. You give everyone the same work. No, but you have to acknowledge the body's different. Why do you put some woman, she's not very physically strong, give her such a hard job? I mean, sometimes you see, you know, the woman is like struggling doing the road work. That's completely ridiculous. And you see, you know, struggling so hard. Some skinny little woman and is working out in the blazing heat or the raining and everything. You know, would you put your mother out? Would you put your mother out on the side of the road, you know, doing work like that with a shovel and, you know, a jackhammer? This is just ignorance. You know, I would protect my mother so she doesn't have to do hard work. I've got a body that can do hard work. I'll do the hard work, and my mother can stay home and just and do all the household activities and easy things. Why give her such hard work? Body is not designed for that. What do you think? Is this controversial?
In today's society, yes.
Modern day society, yes.
Yes.
But is modern society working very well, functioning very well?
No.
Are the women happy in modern day society?
I wouldn't
Are
say
the
so.
men happy in modern day society? The man comes home from a hard day at work and the house is not clean. And there's no food on the table. And their kids are not being looked after. And you can't blame the woman for that because she's been out working too. So there's a big gap. So what happened? Who's filling the gap? You took the person that was doing that job and put him somewhere else. That means that job is not getting done. There's no one looking after the kids anymore, except you've paid someone $20 an hour who doesn't give a stuff about your kids to look after your kids and call it a childcare centre or whatever. And even they've done research and they've found out that kids don't develop so well if they're looked after by someone that's not a family member. But if the mother looks after them or the grandparents look after them, then they'll put so much love on them and they develop to be a great person. Unless you want your child to be a mongrel mob member. They have a gang called the mongrel mob here in New Zealand. I don't know what they call them in Australia. So many different ones. So unless you want your child to grow up to be a gang member that's not being loved or whatever like that. So Vedic culture is very scientific. Every job is important. That's another thing we've got wrong. Now we're telling the woman that being a housewife is not important. Which fool says that? Basically, you're destroying the whole society by saying that. That's the most important job, to raise the children and to keep the household all nice and to worship the Lord. Of course, previously the women were also, they wouldn't be just looking after children. That's very important, and keeping the house clean and cooking and that. But they would be worshipping the Lord in the house. Because remember, every house in Vedic culture is a temple. There's deities of the Lord in every house, Lakshmi Narayan or Sita Ram or Radha Krishna, and the woman would be worshipping the Lord in the house. One guy, he was like one of the richest businessmen in India, and all the other rich businessmen, they said, "Hey mate, tell us what's your secret?" And what did he say? "While I'm out working, my wife is at home worshipping the Lord, doing sacrifice." She was at home doing sacrifice, worshipping the Lord, cooking for the Lord, doing an arti for the Lord, dressing the Lord, all these kind of things, singing for the Lord. And she said, "Because my wife is at home doing this sacrifice for the Lord, and the Lord's pleased with us, he's pleased with us, therefore I'm successful in my business." He saw that the reason why he's successful in business, making so much money, is because of his wife.
That's what they're saying, that every successful man behind a woman.
Yeah, that's right. But now we're stuffing that up. Now we're stuffing that up. So everyone has their place, and you, like we've talked. That was what Narendra's question was before. Why is it better to do your own work imperfectly than another person's duties perfectly?
Right.
You don't want to create a gap. If you don't do your work, you do someone else's work, then who's doing your work?
Yeah.
Then that creates a hole in society. And, okay, your car works very well on 4 wheels. Try taking a wheel off and then drive. That's what we're doing. You completely pulled half of society to pieces.
We are not following the manual actually given by the God, isn't it?
Yeah, we're recreating the wheel. It's already been made. You don't have to recreate it. You know, so it's already a perfect system, but we think we'll make up a better system. I know what we'll do. We'll put women out in the world and we'll put the man at home. Yes, that's it. You know, and I am God, you know, like that. And look what happened. You put the woman out working, getting exploited, and you put the man at home doing housework, and he goes crazy, you know, and she gets exploited, and we wonder why, you know, we're all so confused. So this is the thing. This is the thing. Anyway, just giving you some indication. You know, it's very important. We should follow the path recommended by the Vedas. You know, the Vedas is coming from the Lord and great sages, great rishis. They're so intelligent and they love us. They're so compassionate. They're so merciful. And they're giving us these guidelines to help us to be happy. And so that we can have a peaceful, prosperous life until we die. And then we get liberated. What a perfect program. They're giving us a process that if we follow it, we can be peaceful in this world and prosperous. It means economically, materially, everything prosperous, and from birth till death, where everything's going to go well. And then when you die, you're out of here and you don't come back. I mean, what better system can you have than that? But we stuffed it up. I'm so intelligent. I don't need to follow the Vedas. I'm going to create my own system, philosophy, and work, lifestyle, everything like that. And then we completely screwed it up. But the good news is we can go back to the Vedas, you know, and that's what we've talked about before: free choice. No one's forcing us to live a nutcase life. That's our choice. You know, you can do your own thing and just keep on speculating and screw your life up everyone else's, or you can follow the Vedas. No one's forcing you to do either one. And so at any time we can go back to the Vedas and you can get back right on track. And I'm talking more faster now because I've already run out of time. And you know, that's the thing. So at any particular point in time, and then even though you're in Kali Yuga, in one sense, you're in this horrible, chaotic age. Kali Yuga means the age when people just do whatever they like and they don't follow the Vedas. But even though we're in this ghastly Kali Yuga time, we can create like a mini Satya Yuga bubble around us, which Satya Yuga is the age of golden age of virtue, and everyone's following the Vedas. So we can create that around us. You know, everyone else might be doing whatever they want to do, but at least if we do our dharma, follow the Sanatana Dharma, and we can get the benefit from that, and some other people too. Like you see, one person, Swami Prabhupada, he followed the Sanatana Dharma. He was always happy wherever he was. Like one reporter said, "Are you happy to be here, Swamiji, in America?" Prabhupada said, "I am happy everywhere." You know, because he's got that spiritual bubble around him. Not only he benefited, but whoever came within that spiritual bubble or near to him, they also got drawn into that and benefited from that. So that's our choice, and that's very exciting. That's very exciting. And we should take that responsibility. You know, we have free choice. We should use it properly, follow these universal principles, Sanatana Dharma, and which are tried and tested. They're guaranteed successful, guaranteed. If you follow the Vedic principles, guaranteed it's going to work. It's going to work, and you're going to benefit. Other people will too. Okay, let's finish off the purport. It's only a few lines. Because
we're so deeply absorbed in the bodily concept, the sacrifices are so arranged that one can work either with the body, with the mind, or with the intelligence. But all of them are recommended for ultimately bringing about liberation from the body. This is confirmed by the Lord herein with his own mouth.
As they say, straight from the horse's mouth. So this is straight from Krishna's mouth, straight from the Supreme. That's far out, huh? He's arranged a system that you can use the body to get liberated from the body. This is the cause of our problems. This body is the cause of our suffering. But you can use the body to get liberated from the body. Have you ever heard the saying, right? Well, do you know the process? How do you get a thorn out of your foot? What's the process of getting a thorn out of your foot?
You use another thorn to take it out.
Yes, you use another thorn to remove the thorn. So the very cause of us being in this miserable situation is this body, this identification with this body. But we can use this very body to get out of the body if we use this body in sacrifice. If we use this body in sacrifice, instead of using it for our own pleasure, if we use it for the Lord's pleasure, then this body will be the cause of our liberation from this body.
So you're saying that that we are using our body incorrectly. We are not using as per we should be, and that's what's the cause of all problems, isn't it?
Yeah, the cause of our problems is we're using the body for sense gratification,
That's
for
right.
our own sense gratification. But if you use the body for the supreme sense gratification, then the body will be your ticket out of here. So the body can be your ticket for more further bondage, which is called baddha in Sanskrit, B-A-D-D-H-A, baddha, more bondage. Can be your ticket for more bondage if you use it for sense gratification, your own sense gratification, your own pleasure, or it can be your ticket out of here if you use it to please Krishna's senses.
So there's nothing wrong with the body.
Back to your choice.
Sorry.
What's your choice?
So use our body correctly. Use, as per Vedas. Yeah.
If you use your tongue to go and just eat out at the McDonald's, that's your ticket to bondage. If you use your tongue to eat the prasadam at the bhakti tree, that's your ticket out of here. It's the same tongue, but how are you using it? For whom are you using it? The legs that walk to the casino is your ticket to more bondage, more karma baddha. And the same legs you walk to the temple or walk to the kirtan or whatever, some spiritual engagement, is your key to liberation. The eyes you use to look at some naked form, naked opposite sex, is your ticket to bondage. The same eyes look at the beautiful form of the Lord playing the flute, or Vishnu, or like that, as your ticket out of here. As your ticket out of here. Interesting, huh? Food for thought. Food for thought. And that's sacrifice. You're giving up one thing to do something else. Said spiritual life is meant for those persons that are sober. Sober persons. In Sanskrit, it's called dhira. Very wonderful word. D-H-I-R-A. Dhira. You can read that in second chapter text 14. Famous verse there. Dhira. Very sober. Very sober. So if we become sober, very, very thoughtful, and realize what a responsibility this human life is, and what a great opportunity comes with this human life, then we can make the best use out of it. And we're so lucky in this particular Kali Yuga that we're just coming here after Lord Chaitanya has been here, most merciful incarnation, and he's given the easiest sacrifice and such enjoyable sacrifice, nothing difficult, that just by chanting, just by this chanting and dancing process and taking prasadam, we can get liberated. There's nothing, like Prabhupada would say many times, what is the difficulty? What is the difficulty? You don't have to be a great scholar of Sanskrit. You don't have to be able to stand on your head. But if you can, like Josh, stand on your head, that's a bonus. But you don't have to be able to do like that. You know, very, very simple process, very easy process, but we can get the highest benefit of being liberated from the material world. And we accept that because it's coming from Krishna's mouth. Coming from Krishna's mouth. In 9th chapter, text 13. Satatam kirtayantamam. Krishna is saying, always chant my glories. And you're going to get out of here. So, thank you very much. Would anyone like to say anything? Anyone has any, we've talked about some controversial things and maybe some complicated things, and anyone has anything on their mind, anything that I've said that's confused them or disturbed you, or anything you've found useful?
It's all useful, Abhay.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good.
I remember reading somewhere in the Bhagavad Gita that Prabhupada said that women should be like children and should be protected.
Yeah.
And I read that a couple of times and I thought, but it was that reflected on the difficulties a lot of women have in modern life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So him saying that women should be treated like children doesn't mean like they're just ignorant or something like children are, but meaning how children should be always protected. And I mean, you can say yourselves, you're in women's bodies. Do you like to feel protected? Do you like to feel secure? Do you like security and protection?
Definitely.
Do you like exploitation?
No, I think women experience the vulnerability still. Do you know, so even though we think that we can't speak for all women, but you know that there's still a vulnerability regardless of where you are in life in your situation. So yes, it's nice to feel protected.
Yeah. And if you're being protected, what does that mean? That the people protecting you, they care about you and that you're important to them. Just like I protect my wallet because it has a lot of important cards in it, my driver's license and so many things like that. It's important, so I protect it. And wherever I go, you know, I keep it on me. I don't just leave it lying around. You know, so like that, anything that's important to you, you'll protect it. Anything you care about, anything that's valuable, you protect it. So that's women we've regarded as being highly valuable, important persons and very special. And that's why they were given so much protection. And the men would die to protect them. They would die to protect them.
Abhay.
Do you know in the Battle of Kurukshetra, right? Do you know how many women were killed?
No.
A lot of men were killed. I mean, I can't even remember the number of the men that were killed. It's going into billions. But it's much more than any World War I or World War II. But not one woman, not one child, not one old person died in the Battle of Kurukshetra. Only young men. Except there's one old man, Bhishma, but he's not an ordinary old man. He's like the ultimate warrior. but everyone else was just young men. And the women were always protected. They were out of any danger. They were never put into danger, you know. Actually, do you know the one of the main reasons why this battle took place? Because one woman was insulted. One woman was insulted was one of the main causes of this war. Who was that? Do you know which woman was insulted?
Draupadi.
Yeah, Draupadi. The Pandava's wife, Draupadi. She was insulted. So because of that insult, they took that so seriously. And they had to...
And the whole world suffered.
Well, after that, things got a lot better, actually. After all those demoniac kings were all wiped off, the Kauravas, then the world was a lot better off after that.
Yeah, but in the Kali Yuga, getting worse.
Yeah, I mean now, and I mean it's been so much longer after that. So, but that's just the point that you have to go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, Hare Krishna. Yeah, if anyone has to go, we're way after time, so I won't hold it against you if you have to take off.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Bob. Bob, go for it.
Oh, just a small point is the big picture of looking at women and needing to be protected is in the third world countries, and I experienced this in Cambodia. It was extremely common for a woman to lose a husband and become a widow, and the male neighbour next door would move in and take over the house.
Okay.
You with me? Like push the woman off the property and take over a house.
Wow.
That's very common practice throughout, the poorer Asian countries.
Wow. Yeah.
Because there was no one there to fight for her.
Yes.
Fight for a right.
Yep. See, in Vedic culture, when you're young, you're protected by the young woman's protected by the father, older protected by the husband, and more older protected by the son. So at all stages they were protected. There would also be protection given by the king, that the person in charge would protect. The guru, also a guru can give protection to others. The guru, the king, the brahmanas, they were also very protective. The brahmanas, they were very protective of people in society too. So there's all these different forms through which protection was given. Through the father, through the husband, through the son, through the king, through the brahmana, through the guru. So many ways the protection is manifesting. And ultimately it's God. It's God protecting us through these different features. Because I mean, if we just look at ourselves separately, I can't really protect anyone. I can't even protect myself, but God's power can work through us. We're just an instrument. God's the actual one that's giving protection, and we're just the instrument. And if one instrument's not there, say there's no father anymore, but then the husband steps in, and there's no husband anymore, he's wiped out. So then the son steps in, or there's no son anymore. So then the king steps in, and there's no king anymore. Then someone else will step in. So there's just it's the Supreme Lord working through different instruments to protect us.
I love the Vedic. I think it's a beautiful culture. For women to be protected. I think it's wonderful. But growing up, I grew up with a feminist mother, and I grew up a feminist. And for someone to say, "Oh, you should be protected," I didn't want to be protected.
Yeah.
Also because I had such bad treatment from men, but I didn't want to be protected. But now learning all about the Vedic culture, I think it's wonderful. I wish we could. It could be having now, but
I mean, yeah, it's going to require a whole social revolution. Because not only you have to work on changing the mentality of the woman, but you have to work on changing the mentality of the men. Like you have to change the man's mind to being protective rather than exploiting.
Listen, team, I have to go.
Like one time, Prabhupada, he spoke to my guru and another devotee, and he just sat them down and just to give them a lesson. He said, when you see a woman, you can think one of either two things. What are the two options a man has when he sees a woman?
Exploit or protect.
Yeah. You can think, oh, this woman has come, let me exploit her. Or this woman has come, Krishna has sent her to me to protect her, to engage her in Krishna's service. So that's back to free choice, and that's a choice. So, but then it takes, it's a big responsibility. You're gonna follow the Vedic principles, or you're just gonna play God yourself, and that everything's meant for your enjoyment. So that's the thing. So the women have to be trained, but also the men have to be trained. That's the thing in Vedic culture. You have to look at the big picture. You can't just take one bit of it. Oh, the women are not doing their job properly, we have to change that. No, you also have to work on the men. So it's a complete package.
Well, talking about that, I've got to go and grovel now. Claire will be here any minute.
Lovely to see you again, Bob. You take care.
See you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay.
So how have you been, Sarah? Had a good week?
Yes, thank you. I have had a good week. I went to a job interview today. So
oh, right, you're looking for that job close by. Yeah, I wish you all the best with that. That'll be much better.
Thank you so much.
Traveling.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, all the best for that. That'll be fantastic. Anyway, don't be attached to the outcome, but try your best and depend on Krishna for the result.
That's right.
And but definitely Krishna hears the prayers of his devotees. So just Krishna knows, what your motivations are, but you want to have more time for your spiritual practices and waste less time in your bodily maintenance. So that's a very good reason to get this job. And Krishna knows that. So but he wants to see how much you want that. So yes. You have to try your best.
Before the interview, I did what you said that you do, Abhay Prabhu, how you open up just randomly. And I opened up and it was a verse and it just said, it was talking about do your prescribed duty.
Yeah.
I forgot where it was. It was
yes.
at the beginning somewhere, doing your prescribed duty.
Yes.
Yeah. Not to give up work, but just to, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing it badly, but
yeah.
How has your week been? How is your
good? It's still ongoing with our search for a base.
Yeah.
But I've been filling in the gaps with a lot of reading and that, so that's been really good for me. Really good to be able to do a lot of reading. And I was feeling a little bit despondent that why is it just so hard to find the right place, and I was just feeling really a bit despondent, and then I just clicked a button on the real estate website, and this amazing place just appeared in front of my eyes. and I thought, Krishna, now I can understand why it hasn't been working, because you were just waiting to give us the perfect place. We didn't manage to get all these other places because they weren't the right place. This place is completely off the grid. Completely off the grid. So it's got solar solar power, and also it's got hydro power from it's got a river in the property, and it generates power from the river and from the solar, and it's got pure water for drinking and everything like that, and it's got a nice house, a simple house but nice house, and it's got more land than the other ones we've been looking at, and it's in a good location, and it's cheap. It's cheap.
Wonderful. That sounds wonderful.
So I thought, now I understand why none of the other ones worked out, because that wasn't what was best for us. So this one looks like we can get this one, and Krishna willing, fingers crossed.
How far away is it from where you are?
What's that?
How far away is it from where you are?
It's about 4 hours away from Auckland, but it's 25 minutes from where we want to do our work. 25 minutes from where we want to do our work, and it's good for me to be a little bit away from where I'm going to be doing the work, because then it gives us a little bit of more shelter, more independence. Yeah. We want to help the crazy people, but we don't want to live with the crazy people. So we want to be able to recharge our batteries and then go out there to help people like that, and it gives us a little bit of extra space there. So it's perfect. Just everything's perfect. So Krishna, we just got to have faith that Krishna has the perfect plan for each and every one of us. So don't feel frustrated that things are not working out. There's a reason why it's not working out in the way that we want it to work out, because the way we want it to work out is not what's best for us. So Krishna's directing us in a particular path. Even Prabhupada reflected like that. He wondered why things weren't working out, and then years later he would look back at his life and think, now I understand why Krishna did it like that, because then this happened and this is more better. Actually, the situation was that, that Prabhupada went to America in 1965. Nothing worked out much for a year. But then after a year, things took off and it became real. The whole society just started to develop around the world. Krishna conscious centers popping up left, right, and center all over the place. In the Western world, especially in America, there was just so much Krishna consciousness interest in that. And then at a certain point, there was a bit of poison went into the Hare Krishna movement. Now that poison actually came from some envious godbrothers of Prabhupada in Vrindavan and other places in India. They polluted the mind of some of Prabhupada's disciples, and they started telling his disciples that you haven't been treating your spiritual master right. He's not an ordinary, human being. He's God. He's actually God. So they put in these innocent disciples' head that Prabhupada's God. Like the Christians think, right? That Jesus is not a son of God. He's God. So then those few people spread that to some of the other disciples in America, and that we haven't been treating Prabhupada right. He's God, which was actually called Mayavad philosophy. That's impersonalism, that we're all God and that we can become God. So that's a very, very horrible philosophy, that we're all God. And then Prabhupada got to find that out, and he was so hurt. And he felt like this was going to destroy all the work he'd done, or the whole movement was going to be destroyed by this Mayavad philosophy and personalism philosophy. In his complete disgust and being upset, he left America and he went back to India, thinking it's all gone. All the work I've done over 5 years, more than that, 5 or 6 years, is all spoiled now. So he went back to India, and he's sort of given up on the West. And then in India, he focused on on building centres in India. And that because of him, he hadn't planned to go back to India, but because of that happened, unplanned thing happened, that he went back to India, and then he set up a fantastic centre in Bombay, which is now Mumbai, and which is Juhu, and Vrindavan, and then Mayapur, which is now the headquarters of the Hare Krishna movement, and Mayapur, Lord Chaitanya's birthplace. But he hadn't planned to do that, but because all this scenario happened, he did that. And then years later, he's sitting in Vrindavan giving class, and he said to everyone, I was wondering why Krishna took away my beautiful temple in Los Angeles. But now I understand he's given me a temple 1,000 times better in Vrindavan. See, Krishna might take away one thing, but he's giving you something much, much better. And that was his plan. But we don't know his plan, isn't it? We don't know what Krishna's plan is. But he's directing us in different ways. But it's all perfectly according to his plan. And then what happened? So Prabhupada got this temple by that whole arrangement 1,000 times better than the other one he had in America. But then afterwards, Prabhupada sorted out this Mayavad philosophy and got everyone back on track that he's not God, he's a servant of God, and you can't become God. And then he got them back on track. And then he got the Los Angeles temple and all the other temples back in the West as well. So then everything was back all right. So he didn't lose anything, but he got something much, much more than what he had expected. So it's exciting. We should always have faith. Never lose faith. Krishna's always there. He's always protecting us. Even it might seem like he didn't protect us, but actually he is. But we just needed to go through some lessons or some purification or whatever like that. But he's always protecting us. Ultimately, even all our bodies, right, they have to die sooner or later. So it's not that Krishna is going to stop us from dying. So what is he protecting?
The soul.
He's protecting our Krishna consciousness, protecting our soul, that we're not going to fall down from Krishna consciousness. We're not going to lose. He's going to protect that, protecting our Krishna consciousness.
Oh, but she's so beautiful. She looks so well.
So,
Thank you, God.
Pleasure. Okay, all the best, Sarah. Take care. And keep me posted how it goes with your job hunting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. And same goes to you and Auntie with your
Yes.
your new
Let me know how things go.
We'll pray to Krishna for you.
Yeah, and then when we get something set up, we'll invite you over.
Oh.
When the when all the travel restrictions are gone away, then we'll invite you over.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Bye bye, Bhakti Mala. Nice to see you.
I'll speak to you soon, hey?
Okay, no worries. Bye bye.
Bye. Take care. Hare Krishna.
So how's everything going at the Bhakti Tree?
Yeah, good. We're still recording though. I might maybe.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
Is that okay? Just in case someone watches it.